A few months ago, I bought a 2013 Porsche 911 Carrera from a different state than where I live, from a dealer, sight unseen, without ever having looked at or test driven the car. This is the most idiotic thing that I've ever done, other than the fact that I keep buying cars for my YouTube channel, but that's a different story. But let me tell you, buying a car in this way was the most stressful thing that I've ever done. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of what it was like to buy a car in this way from an out-of-state dealer. I'll share some tips along the way that you might find useful if you choose to go down this route, but don't. If you want to live a long life, then avoid buying a car in this way because this will shave years off your life. Working with dealers is already tough, and now you're trying to buy a car off of them without ever having seen it in the first place. Of course, in an ideal world, I would have bought my 911 locally, but the stick shift 911s are in such high demand that they're flying off the shelves. I talked about it a little bit in these videos that I made, and really I had no choice but to find a 911 somewhere else in the country. People are scooping these things up like they buy popcorn at a movie theater. Whatever you want, just give it to me, please, I'll pay whatever. I've been buying and getting rid of used cars for a long time now, and I've never seen anything quite like this. I became one of these people where I had to have the stick shift 911, and the harder it became to find one, the more I wanted to get one. And so finally, I came across the manual 911 at this North Carolina dealer, and the first thing I did was check the dealer reviews. So that's tip number one. Always check to see if the dealer is reputable and what the reviews are. A 4.9 rating, hundreds of reviews. I read through some of them. The dealer looked legit, so I called up the guy and started working on a deal on this 911. Ideally, I would have flown up to North Carolina to actually check out the car in person, but I just didn't have time to travel, so I had to do everything over the phone. When you can't see the car in person, you're completely reliant on the salesperson and the dealership. So tip number two is ask lots of questions. I got tons of pictures. I asked the sales guy to drive the car and send me driving videos. I asked him a bunch of questions about the car, the ownership history, whatever information he had, I needed to know everything. After talking to the sales guy a bunch of times, I got a good feeling about him, and I went with my gut that I could trust him. Sometimes you just have to trust your instinct, and as you're talking to your salesperson, if something just isn't sitting right, just walk away. It's not worth getting screwed over somebody that you just can't trust. Tip number three is the obvious one. Check the Carfax, number of owners, the history, and make sure there's no accidents, especially if you're buying the car sight unseen. Not all accidents are bad, minor ones are okay, but since you can't see the car and you're just relying on what other people are telling you, the less incidents that happen on the car, the better. So you want to make sure that the car is as clean as you can get, especially when it comes to the Carfax. So far, so good with my 911. Everything checked out. I liked the pictures and the videos. Carfax was clean. And so I started negotiating a deal with the sales guy. Unfortunately, on a stick shift 911, there really is no wiggle room. The demand for these cars is so high and the car is rare, and everybody just knows that. On top of that, there were multiple people interested in the 911. People came out of the woodwork. Everybody wanted to buy this car. So really, I had no chance of negotiating a good deal. But that's okay. I wasn't really looking for the deal of a lifetime. I just wanted to get my hands on this 911, and I was lucky to have even found it. So now, after we settled on a price, came the most annoying thing ever, which is all of the paperwork and getting the dealer to just move. Tip number four is to be the nagging mom. If you don't keep calling them and following up, nothing will ever happen. They will pay a lot more attention to people that are in their dealer than somebody that's calling from who knows where. And if you want to get your car, if you want to sign the papers, you got to keep pushing them, and it's super annoying. Just like you want your kid to eat that broccoli, you want that dealer to send you all that paperwork. Non-stop phone calls, text messages, and finally the paperwork arrived. A big envelope with 1,000 pages, and then I had to sign all of it. And then I had to keep calling the dealer. Did you get the paperwork? Did you get my signatures? When can I get my car? That took another couple days. And this is where the anxiety really starts kicking in and you start to lose years from your life because you don't want your 911 just sitting out in the dealer. Who knows how many people are test driving it, looking at it, wearing it down even more. The dealer doesn't care. They already got their money. It's your car. You're the one that wants it, so you have to keep pestering and badgering them. It's through this process that you realize that the dealer that I was working with didn't really do these kinds of deals that much because they were struggling as much as I was. They were trying to figure things out. I live in Texas, so the car had to be registered in Texas. I paid Texas sales tax as opposed to North Carolina. So a lot of these things took the dealer forever to figure out. But finally, they got their act together and I thought I was done. I thought that the dealer could just load their car onto a truck and just send it over to me. But guess what? I was wrong. The whole process of paying and signing the paperwork and sending it over and dealing with the sales guy and the finance guy, that took about a week. Little did I know that shipping was going to take a whole other week. So tip number 5 is patience. You have to be incredibly patient through this entire process. There's so many steps, it takes so long. So end to end, it took me about 2 weeks. What I learned about shipping is that dealers don't just load your car onto a truck and they send it over to you. They actually put out a quote to be bid on by different shipping companies, and I selected close shipping, which means there were fewer of those trucks out there. So it took a few days for somebody to even accept close shipping. And with close shipping, even though I didn't buy a Ferrari or some exotic car, I didn't want to take the risk of some random rock hitting the car or the truck driving through a hailstorm because that's a whole other set of problems to deal with. I just wanted the car in one piece and get it safely. So close shipping does come with an extra cost and I just paid it. And that is something to keep in mind is when you're buying a car out of state, with shipping costs, it could easily be $1,500, $2,000. So that's something extra that you have to pay for. And so after all that, after 2 weeks of back and forth and constant calling and texting and being that nagging mom and the dealers completely getting sick of me, I got the car. Luckily, it showed up mostly as advertised. There were a few things on it that the dealer wasn't completely open about, like the fact that the tires were almost bald. But my expectations with dealers are not that high, so mostly I was pleased. I'm just glad I didn't end up with a complete piece of garbage. So all in all, it wasn't a completely terrible experience. I don't know if I want to go through it again because I do want to live a long life. This process could have completely gone sideways, and I'm so lucky that it didn't. I guess I learned a few things along the way, and hopefully the tips that I shared are useful to you if you choose to go down this route. But why waste your money on the car? Put it into stocks instead. Have you seen the stock market lately? Record highs.